Bruce had been really young then too, so Bruce was a cold-hearted motherfucker even back then. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name's Arik.
And I'm Lillian.
You guys know who we are.
I hope so.
We are back for another episode, and we kind of have some news here. We are tossing around the idea of dropping the old LNA podcast label, as prior listeners know. And our new one is going to be the Glass Candle podcast, where we see what is, what could be, and what will come in A Song of Ice and Fire. And this stems from our structure, where we talk about what actually happens in the chapter, what could have happened differently, and then how things in the chapter that we review affect the future plots and actions of everybody else. So, glass candles and shit. You guys get it? So, Lillian, what are we doing today?
We are doing Catelyn IX. We get to meet the Weasel, Walder Frey.
Yes, we do. So, your high-level summary. So, we begin with the Northern host ascending from Catelyn. Robb rides with a different commander every day to hear advice and build loyalty and leadership bonds. The Blackfish and Theon are scouting ahead, eventually engaging in a skirmish with Lannister scouts led by Sir Adam Marbrand. The Wolf host forces Marbrand to retreat, and Blackfish I fucked it up twice. Blackfish employs OPSEC measures at the twins, shooting down all ravens leaving the castle. Robb and Cat eventually arrive at the crossing, and after some deliberation, Cat volunteers to meet with Walder Frey herself. Frey monologues for a while about how many kids he has and how shit on his family is by the upper-class lords. And, he does drop some contrasting information about the fostering of Sweet Robin. He mentions that he heard Stannis was supposed to raise him, which clashes with what Lysa said about Tywin's supposed to raise him, but that's neither here nor there. But eventually, we get a weird jump cut before we actually get to the deal, and then Kat walks out. She meets with Robb, and she tells him Walder Frey's terms. These terms are: Big and Little Walder are to be fostered at Winterfell. Oliver Frey is to squire for Robb. Arya is set to marry the youngest Frey kid. And Robb has to marry one of Walder Frey's daughters. And after a quick 3-second thought, Robb accepts. Did I leave anything out there?
No, you got everything.
Yeah, I skipped a bunch of what Frey talks about, how no one wants to foster his daughters, and his kids suck at jousting, and they're all a bunch of assholes, and he has 31 kids.
I feel like you're inflating that number.
Was it 20, 31, 27?
I think it's 20-something, and then it just expands exponentially.
Let's consult the text. Well, he has 36 grandsons. So I was minimizing 20 living sons, or 21, Sir Perwyn. 36 grandsons, so that's 57. 19 great-grandsons. Yeah, numerous daughters, granddaughters, bastards, grandbastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was shortchanging him.
I knew you were wrong.
Really?
Is the point.
Yeah, right. Alright, so let's go into the main character of the chapter.
So for the main character for this chapter, I had that it was Robb. Basically, the events of the chapter, it all centers around Robb and the ability to get his host across the twins. He needs to make sure that his people help free up his grandfather, Lord Hoster Tully.
So I had Kat, not just because we learn her point of view, but because it's her who actually goes in there to make the deal. Robb kind of just sits outside because everybody's scared he's going to get shanked. On the way down from Catelyn to the twins, we're listening and reading about Catelyn's fears and her worries about Robb if he's grown enough to handle all this stuff. And then whenever she gets into the twins, it's about how she's relying on her being a Tully, and she's recalling her family history about it, the Frey's relationship with the Tullys. And then while she's in there, it's up to her to convince Walder to let Robb's people through. And I see it as mostly about her and her trying to shoulder this burden and get this done. And it's, her thoughts and feelings about this whole thing. My runner-up would have been Walder Frey, because this is like his introduction, and he has like 3 paragraphs talking about his family history, and everything's about Walder Frey and, his family, his house, his kids, him being an asshole.
I completely forgot that he's like 90 years old, because in the show he doesn't look that old at all.
Well, yeah, no. He does look really fucking old, though.
Not 90.
Yeah, not 90, but he looks a lot older than every other person, except for maybe Aemon and Pycelle in the show.
I don't even think Pycelle looks that old.
So, let's move on to who held the biggest influence over the point of view character in the chapter. I think it is Walder Frey. He basically dictates the conditions of the chapter. He's the one who's putting the pressure on Robb and Catelyn. If they can't convince Walder, if they don't accept Walder's offer, then they have to completely redo their plan. So everything is reliant on the fickleness of Mr. Frey here and whether or not he's going to help them out or not. Who's your influence guy?
For the biggest influence over Kat, I had basically her memories of Ned and how he counseled people when he was at Winterfell, and reflecting on whether or not Robb learned enough from him. And so I feel like that had a lot to do with Kat's confidence in her actions and the way she evaluated Robb's reactions to the things that she brought to him.
Yeah, Ned kind of pops in her head every now and then in this chapter. She definitely sees Robb as like Ned personified. But yeah, I see it. Go ahead and take us into the next one.
Knowing how the future plays out, what should the POV have done differently? Well, I don't have anything for Kat. I have for Robb that he should have taken more valuable hostages, though it doesn't seem like anybody is valuable to Walder Frey. So I don't think it would have mattered who he had taken as a squire or who they had sent to Winterfell to ward. Like you mentioned when we tried to record earlier, Walder would only care if they took Walder himself.
Yeah, and there would not be a situation where Walder Frey agrees to let himself be taken, so.
Can you imagine that, just carrying his little litter? It's not like they have tanks where they can just, like, shove him into it.
Yeah. It'd be kind of funny, though.
What did you have?
So yeah, I didn't have anything for Kat specifically, but I said they, as a group, Kat, Walder Frey, and Robb, could have identified Robb's wife then, while they're there, instead of leaving it an ambiguous, quote, Frey girl. You could have went through and taken a look at the buffet line, as it were.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And picked his thing. That's how they were talking about it. He's free to pick any one of my daughters. Like, just come on in, have a look, pick one. And I think they possibly could have even had the marriage ceremony there. It took like fucking hours for the army to cross the bridge. So that would have been plenty enough time for them to say a couple fancy words and, bang it out. And then you don't have to worry about Robb. Well, I mean, I guess he could have cheated on his wife later.
But it would have been a bastard, so it wouldn't matter.
I had another one, too. So at the end of this chapter, this is where the main host splits, and he leaves Roose Bolton in charge of the other side. And I think, knowing how things go down, he should have not let Roose go. Maybe throw Galbert Glover or Rickard Karstark or somebody else in there instead of Roose. Probably should have kept Roose closer. I think that would have been a smart move. Good change.
Why do you think Roose was the one left behind? Do you think maybe his reputation had anything to do with it?
I suppose he would have thought Roose is the better military, strategic commander. Greatjon definitely is like a get on your horses, boys, are running right at him kind of guy. Karstark, I get the impression, is the same kind of way. Like to just get up and charge him, and then, we'll sort it out there. Glover doesn't seem to be particularly cunning, but Roose has this calculating kind of persona to where, even as a reader with, no context about it, I get the impression that he's a more effective military commander than Greatjon or Karstark or Glover or anybody like that. So I understand the choice, but again, with this section is knowing how everything goes down, I wouldn't, this is an opportunity to change that. The only Northerner we really hear, or Roose was at the Trident, right, with Ned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he has military experience, and I guess,
He wanted to slit Barristan's throat.
yeah, were they at the Greyjoy Rebellion? I know Jorah was, but
I
I
don't remember
can't think,
hearing anything about Roose being there.
or anybody else aside from Jorah, right?
Thoros.
Well, any other Northern person. There's just
Mm,
Ned and Jorah.
probably.
But yeah, so Roose was one of Ned's commanders. Ned was what, 17 at the Trident? 18, 19, something like that? He
Sure.
was he was younger than 20, so Roose had to have been really young then too, so Roose was a cold-hearted motherfucker even back then. Alright, so now we're going to move on to how the actions in this chapter affect the other storylines. So I had a couple on them here. Obviously, the seeds are planted for the Red Wedding, both in foreshadow and in action. So I think it was Galbert Glover that had the line when they're debating on Walder Frey's fickle loyalties. He even says outright, "Does Frey plan to betray us to the Lannisters?" or something like that. And now it's like it's George R. R. Martin going, "Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I told you," kind of sort of thing. And Frey even says later when he's talking about Tywin, he was like, "All Tywin had to do was ask for my help, and I would have given it." And then Catelyn was like, now is my opportunity. She's like, "We're asking for your help." So that's another nudge, nudge, wink, wink kind of thing, because later Tywin writes him a letter and just like, "Hey, bro, can you really do this for me?" And Walter's like, "Oh, Tywin thinks I'm important." And in the show where he drinks with Jamie, he's like, "We're both Kingslayers." I got a couple more if you want me to continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Roose being separated from Robb and away from his influence and control, like, leads to Roose's rebellion of sorts, and it also diverges away and brings Arya into contact with Roose at Harrenhal. So then you got the Dance with Dragons and Clash of Kings plots making way here. Big and Little Walder are sent up to Winterfell, where they kind of fuck around up until through a Dance with Dragons, and the Frey succession crisis is introduced. Walter talks about how he had like a billion fucking kids. Stavron, his heir, is a 6-year-old dude, and he's joking around about how he's gonna name his newborn kid the heir, and that'll piss everybody off, and everybody names their kids Walter or Walda to try to gain favor, to maybe like boost them up in the succession line. So that's kind of seated here. Also interesting too, because Arya is betrothed now to a Frey. Um, how come they didn't throw a pissy fit whenever Bruce is like, "I have Arya Stark and I'm gonna marry her to Ramsay"? How come Walder Frey wasn't just like, "I'm gonna kill you at your wedding now because she's betrothed to one of my sons"? I guess when they killed Robb, they're just like, "All right, the rest of these things kind of just fall apart now." They
Yeah.
made a new deal, I guess. Has to be it, right? Because they never bring it up again.
Well, isn't the boy that Arya's betrothed to, doesn't he die?
I don't know. He's about the
Because
same age as Arya, so I don't know why he would die.
Arya meets him, I
Does she?
thought. Or maybe I'm making this up. I could have sworn
Oh,
she meets him and they like hate each other and he's talking about how he's like betrothed to a northern princess or some shit when she's hiding out pretending to be Ari. What is his name? Do you know?
um, Elmar Frey,
Like Elmer?
Elmar.
Elmar Squires for Roose Bolton and is part of his army when it takes Harrenhal. There, he frequently interacts with his betrothed, Arya Stark, who has assumed the identity Nan, leaving Elmar unaware of the fact. When Elmar learns that his betrothal to Arya, his princess, quote unquote, has been called off due to Robb Stark's marriage to Jane Westerling, he cries about losing his princess. So yeah, they meet. And what I remember is that
Cool.
they do not like each other whatsoever.
Did not remember that at all. Good call. Good catch. Good catch.
I know, I'm good for something.
So what do you have for this one?
I just have that the marriage pact allows for Robb's host to cross and continue on with the war efforts and to help lift the siege at River Run.
It intersects with Jamie.
Yeah,
That kind of
they
becomes more
capture.
prevalent in the next one when the that happens. But yeah, this definitely puts him in position to do that. It also sets up Bruce and Tywin crossing. Is that who Tyrion fights in his thing? Is Bruce's host? It has to be, right? Or is it Ed? No, it's not.
I
I
think it
think it
was
has to
Bruce's
be.
host because it was on the left side.
It has to be. So moving on to Lillian's new quote, or not quote, Lillian's new segment.
So we came up with a new segment for alternative POVs. So basically, who else in the chapter would you like to see these events through? So for me, for this chapter, I chose Brendan Blackfish because I thought it would be cool. He's with the Outriders, and we get to see things from his perspective, the military mindset, and see what his opinion is on Kat basically volunteering herself as tribute by going to go treat with Walder Frey instead of any of the lords or Rob himself.
True, true, yeah. My pick is very similar. We didn't discuss this prior, but I picked Theon. Theon because he's with Blackfish, and since we kind of don't get inside those high military leadership kind of heads a whole lot, we always like see him from like the other guy there. Um, I thought that Theon kind of fell in line with there, so we would see Theon's interaction with the Blackfish in the scouting parties and whatnot. And then whenever they come back, you would have Theon's inner thoughts speaking with Catelyn, and then whenever Catelyn does go inside, you can maybe have a more intimate conversation between Theon and Robb, so you can get Robb's state of mind on both Cat going in there to do this and Robb's like any kind of like doubts he might have of the campaign in general. And then you'd have Great John and Karstark and Roose possibly uh, speaking with Theon, and you come to think of it, like if you had a Theon and Roose conversation like here, like that could have been pretty cool to. Well, I don't know about cool, but it'd be interesting uh, to see like what kind of foreshadowing and hints and stuff that George would write in, having a conversation between Theon and Roose Bolton.
Well, I think that would be good because, there may be some things in there. Roose is a cunning man. Theon is not very smart, and at this point, as far as we know, he isn't planning on betraying Robb. But it would be
He's
interesting
not
to
at all.
see if,
He's not planning at all.
Roose was like trying to plant seeds of doubt in Theon's mind about what was happening.
If I were to guess, like what kind of foreshadow would be dropped from Roose to Theon, it would be like some kind of vague reference to Ramsay and his cruelty or something like that, or someone would make a joke about Theon being like Robb's pet, and
Oh
then Roose would
Lord.
be like, "My bastard has a pet," or something like that. you know, Input like creepy Roose talk. That's very sinister. That's not what I just did. But I think that would be the kind of like foreshadow we get there. We would miss all the Red Wedding foreshadowing.
But it'd still
I
be
mean, that could be
interesting.
yeah. That I didn't even think of that till literally just now. That's pretty cool. I like that one.
We came up with new stuff.
It's a good segment. Good segment, Lillian. So
Thank
our
you.
next part is quotes. Yeah, I got the order right.
Yes, you did.
So quotes. So on page 639, this is Kat's inner monologue. Thinking about Robb, she says Robb, has learned so much from Ned. She thought as she watched him, but has he learned enough? That is kind of funny because if you listen to any of our Ned pod or episodes, we don't think Ned's a very smart dude. He kind of makes a lot of dumb decisions. So when I'm sitting here like he learned so much from Ned, I'm just like that's not a good thing. Has he learned enough? Oh, so he's not even learned enough from Ned to be good at this or to be really bad. So is that a good thing that he hasn't learned that much from Ned, or is it bad like he doesn't even like he's not even as smart as Ned to make these dumb decisions?
Oh, it just sounds terrible all around.
Yeah, but Ned's not good at this. We
No,
find
it's
out
not.
Rob's not good at it either.
Ned
So
tries though. He's not.
Rob tries. Everybody tries.
Rob doesn't try. Rob goes and fucks some chick. He doesn't try for shit. Um,
That's harsh.
that's harsh, really.
Ned, you said Rob doesn't try. He just goes off and fucks some chick.
Yeah.
That is oversimplification in all caps.
Well, Ned. Okay, so yes, we decided Ned doesn't know how to play the game. Ned isn't a very smart man. Ned's honor is kind of fucked. But in terms of running Winterfell, from what we know, he did a good job. And so I think there are things that Robb could have learned from him. I don't think
Yeah,
all
I
hope is
agree.
lost for Robb at
No.
this point until he goes and fucks up and fucks some chick.
In the context of this thought, it was about dealing with other like people that are not in the same kingdom as you, and it was doing the politics thing. And that's where she was like, he learned so much from Ned about politics. Like, did you learn enough about Ned from politics? That's like kind of not a good idea.
Yes, Ned was bad at that.
Maybe you should have taught Rob a little bit more about politics. And she does. I think she tries to teach him a great deal, and Rob just is slow on the pickup.
Well, how would you be though, if your mom was kind of butting in the entire time? Like Catelyn does give good advice, I'll admit that, but a lot of the time when she speaks up, if I was like Great John or someone, I'd be like, "What the fuck is this chick doing? She has no right to speak and she doesn't know anything. Why is she
She
speaking?
has no right to speak, and she doesn't know
She's a
anything?
woman. What the fuck does she know about war?"
A lot, as we see through her chapters. You
Okay.
think anyone else, you think Great John or Karstark or maybe Roose or Rob or Blackfish would have been able to get this deal out of Walder Frey. Anybody else goes in there and does this, and they're marching south to take on Tywin head on, or they're fucking back off to Mount Caelan. Like I said, maybe Roose is the only other person that gets this job done, and it would maybe backstab him, maybe.
Okay. Well, let's look at the big picture beyond just the negotiations with Walder. When she was counseling him on different
Mm-hmm.
things. Who is she? The fuck does she know?
Mother and the wife of the Warden of the North,
Okay,
daughter of the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. Like she would know some stuff,
she's a
and she
fucking chick.
does.
What the hell does she know? This is a feudal society. Men
Okay,
rule everything. She
but
should
you
be fucking
know
in the kitchen or knitting or some shit.
you are wrong on so many levels. I don't know if you're trolling me right now or what. That is so ignorant to say because we're in her head. We know she knows stuff. We know she knows how to handle this stuff. A lot of things go wrong because people think like you and they don't take her seriously and things don't work out.
Well, maybe that's why I am where I am in my life, okay? So, whatever.
What's your
Alright, so my first quote is on 638, and it's Kat's inner monologue to herself. She's talking about how Rob's the only child left, or Rob's the only child right now that she can help. So she's let everybody else go, and she's thinking to herself, "You must save your strength for Rob. He is the only one you can help. You must be as fierce and hard as the North, Catelyn Tully. You must be as stark for true now, like your son." So I admire the fact that she's recognizing that people from the North are strong, but she's still, I think this entire time she's been married to Ned, she's held on to her Tully image, and it makes me question their marriage. So go ahead.
how?
Just
How?
just go ahead.
How is being like, yes, I am a Tully. My dad is a Tully. My brother's a Tully. I like my dad. I like my brother. I like my sister. This is bad. You lose me. Like I'm with you on the adding up. Like Hoster, yeah, dad, Edmure's brother, sister. Okay, this is a Tully family. We get to the equal sign, and that is not good.
She
And
got married.
I don't get it. Yeah,
She
she did
got
get married.
married, and in
Yep,
this
I'm with you.
society, you assimilate to the husband's culture.
No, that's wrong.
Okay.
You don't adopt the husband's culture. You don't completely erase your identity in your past.
I'm not saying that she has to. Ned had that
Yes, you
sept.
are.
No, I'm not. Ned had that sept built for her so she could feel more comfortable in the North.
Right?
But she
And
was
because it
never
was her religion.
she was never truly comfortable in the North.
Right?
I don't fucking know. This is something we will never agree on.
Well, I don't. She is not comfortable in the north because she's from the south. Understandable. She's from the Riverlands, and now
So,
she's living in the north where it snows the whole time.
she's been there for what, 15, 16 years?
Yeah,
Fucking get used to it.
just get used to it.
Yes.
And it's bad that she still likes her dad
Yes.
because her dad is not a Stark.
Yes.
She should have been an incest, is what you're saying.
No.
She should have been a Stark.
No.
That's what you're saying. She should completely hate and distance herself from her Tully line because her husband's not a Tully. So
You're being difficult.
I don't understand your point.
Okay, on the positive side, I'm glad that she realizes and admires that the northern people are strong.
Yes,
So good for her on that.
good for her on that. End point.
The other side of it makes me question her just in general because constantly throughout the book, she's referred to either she refers to herself or other people refer to her as Catelyn Tully instead of Catelyn Stark. And so the fact that she's never really,
She's called both.
I know, but the fact that she's never really embraced Stark bothers me personally. That's all it is.
Okay. I mean, I think the point of this thought is that she's trying to be strong for her son and she's going to do anything for her kid.
Yeah.
Not she should have been a Stark the whole time. So I think it's just a classic case of fuck cat. There you go. There's that middle finger. So my next quote is on page 644. By the way, if you guys didn't get the point yet, Lillian hates cat. So on 644,
No, I don't.
it says, this is, again, Kat's inner monologue, thinking about Walder. It says, her father had once said of Walder Frey that he was the only lord in the Seven Kingdoms who could field an army out of his breeches. I thought that was really funny. And that's when we go into 21 living sons, 36 grandsons, 19 great-grandsons, and numerous daughters, granddaughters, bastards, grandbastards. She understood just what he had meant. I thought that was kind of funny. Only person in the Seven Kingdoms who can field an army out of his dick. Hilarious. Kat, the comedian. She can just do it all. She's so perfect. I love her. What's your next quote?
She was quoting her father, first of all.
Yeah, but she said it.
And I don't hate Kat. Sansa is questionable. Kat, I am trying to like. My other quote is on 639. So she says, some men take their oaths more seriously than others, Rob. And Lord Walder was always friendlier with Casterly Rock than my father would have liked. So I think this is a good quote, and I think it really applies to almost everybody in our story. We've talked about it before in other episodes, how oaths only mean so much to certain people, whether it's the Night's Watch or the King's Guard, or when you're, pledging fealty to your lord or the king or whoever else. Words are words. Words are wind, right? So
Yep.
unless you're going to follow through with it, it doesn't mean anything.
It's also very similar to Jamie's quote, where he's talking about the oaths of the King's Guard.
Forsaking one oath for another.
As a knight and everything like that. Yeah, so like it says, like some people take their oaths more seriously than others. And it's kind of like a more in-depth breakdown of that. Like some people take certain parts of oaths more importantly than others. It's a good kind of parallel there. Kat and Jamie on the same kind of mindset. So I have another quote on page 648. It's not so much a quote, or like it's not so much a line or anything, but it's something that Walder Frey says. And he's talking about how his kids suck at jousting. And he's like, why did I need to ride all the way to that city, King's Landing? Or the city, it says the city, I assume it's King's Landing. But why did I need to ride all the way to see Hostine knocked off his horse by that Tyrell whelp? I ask you, the boy's half his age. Sir Daisy, they call him. Something like that. He's talking about Sir Loras Tyrell, and he calls him Sir Daisy.
Well, he's the Knight of Flowers.
Yeah, he's the Knight of Flowers, and I thought it was funny.
I completely forgot about that, or I didn't catch it the first time I ever read it, so I thought it was really funny too.
Yeah, me either. Earlier. It felt like it was a brand new line right there. I think I have to call Sir Loras Sir Daisy from now on. Walder Frey, funny guy.
Alright, so our next point is standout appearances for the chapter. And for me, the standout was Walder Frey. This 90-year-old, cocky, old weasel of a man. Doesn't give a shit. He's going to say what he wants to say. I think he has a lot of balls to treat Kat the way he does. But at the same
True.
time, what is she going to do about it? She's stuck inside his castle.
Yeah, I had Walder, shitty dude, but sarcastic and funny.
So you identify with him?
I suppose, kind of. Yeah, I'm a shitty dude, but I'm sarcastic and sometimes I am funny. So we have certain qualities. He has sex a lot though, kind of
That's
different.
gross to think about.
I also had the
What?
twins as a standout
Wait,
appearance. Huh?
He's 90 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they have Viagra.
So my theory on this, we'll just go ahead and jump to it. So because the twins are located fairly close to Greywater Watch and the neck, where there's Greenseers, I think he has a certain connect up there that gives him some kind of green pill, which is like a metaphor for the blue pill here in the real world. So like he gets like erectile dysfunction pills to like counteract that. So
Was
like
this
he
for
just
real,
gets
your
these
theory for later?
magic pills that give him raging boners, and that's why he can like still have sex at 90 years old.
Is this
No,
for real,
I
no?
just came up with this,
Okay, because I was like, then we could talk about it later.
but I think this is plausible. It has to
Oh
be
my
magic,
God.
right?
I don't fucking know. I don't want to think
It has
about
to
it.
be magic. Has to be magic.
Anyways, do you have anything else?
Yes. So the twins itself, the crossing, the castles.
Okay.
That is a standout appearance. Then I just want to read this little bit right here. Their bridge was a massive arch of smooth gray rock, wide enough for two wagons to pass abreast. The water tower rose from the center span, commanding both road and river, with its arrow slits, murder holes, and portcullises. It had taken the Freys 3 generations to complete the bridge. When they were done, they'd thrown up stout timber keeps on either bank, so no one might cross without their leave. To continue on, it says, the timber had long since given way to stone. The twins, two squat, ugly, formidable castles, identical in every respect, with the bridge arching between, had guarded the crossing for centuries. High curtain walls, deep moats, heavy oak and iron gates protected the approaches. The bridge footings rose from within the stout inner keeps. There was a barbican and portcullis on either bank, and the water tower defended the span itself. One glance was sufficient to tell Catelyn that their castle would not be taken by storm. And then, like, Great John, like, he gets super pissed and starts, like, cussing and shit. And Bruce Bolton is like, that cannot be assaulted, my lords. So, never really thought of the twins as, like, this super impressive fortress. But apparently it is. Great John sees it, and he just starts going into a fuckfest fit where he just pissed. And Bruce is just like, yeah, dude, this ain't happening.
That's
Just
a good
immediately,
point.
Bruce is just like, nope, we're not taking this thing.
I've
It's
never
kind of,
really put much thought into the castle itself, just the fact that it was a bridge and that's why it was important. Because I just don't think of it as being fortified castle. Like when you're talking
well, the
about the
show doesn't
twins,
really give it this respect, and that's
yeah,
what was standing out in my brain. You know, when you think of like impregnable castles, you're thinking Harrenhal, you're thinking Storm's End, Casterly Rock, maybe the Red Keep. You're not really thinking the twins, you know.
yeah,
But from the sound of it, like no one's gonna take this.
which is good. Well, not for Rob, but it's good for Walder.
Man, it's good for water. So now let's move on to theory. So my real theory here. Are you ready for this?
No,
I think that eventually Walter is going to betray Rob to help Tywin. Am I crazy? Is there evidence for this? Did you pick up on it?
I want to stab you.
Ah. Yeah, no, it does. This is a real theory, and it actually pays off because I'm right. And Walter does betray Rob on behalf of Tywin. It's 1 point to Eric. What's your theory? And then we'll see who wins this game. Actually, 2 if you count my Greenseer Viagra as
Dude,
another win, which I do. So it's 2 to what?
you can just fuck off so hard right now because
Oh,
you
don't be a
watched.
sore loser.
No, you watched the show before you started reading the book, so you knew what was going to happen. You can't
I've also
fucking.
read the books before. So,
Not the point. You can't say that it's a theory when you know it's going to happen.
in 1993, when the book 93, right, or something, whatever. But when this and Clash of Kings came out, I'm sure it was a theory before people had the
Okay.
internet. So what? So we only bring up theories that are unproven?
I think it was 96. So I was 10. You were 7.
I was 6.
You were 6? You were born in 90?
Yeah. I just turned 28.
I'm off. Okay. So I don't have actual
I'm
theories.
right on this.
Huh?
I was saying I'm right on how old I am. It's not a theory. I know that one for sure. That's 3 for me.
Can I like pay Max? Can I send him money via PayPal to like slap you?
No. Yeah, you can.
Would he do it?
Yeah, probably.
So I don't have any theories. I have a couple what if questions.
Okay.
So the first one, which is a little more logical, is what if Brendan would have volunteered himself before Kat got the opportunity to volunteer herself to negotiate with Walder?
I think he would have been a big bully, and I think Walder Frey would have told him to fuck off.
You don't think he would have accomplished anything?
Nope.
Okay.
We mentioned this, or we talked about it in passing earlier. I think the only other person besides Kat that might have been able to pull anything off would have been Roose Bolton. Yeah, I mean, we see Brendan's negotiating tactics with Jamie later. I mean, sure, like, and even then, like, he had a predetermined outcome in his mind whenever he came out there. So I'm sure he'd have a predetermined approach going into Walder, being like, "You're gonna turn this castle over to us, or we're gonna fucking kill you."
So the reason why I brought up Brendan was because, the way Walder talks to Kat, obviously he doesn't respect women, and I feel like he would have treated Brendan with more respect. But you do have a point that the Blackfish would have gone in there and not put up with any shit. But at the same time, Blackfish is a Tully, and yes, Kat is a Tully, but I feel like Brendan is a more valuable Tully. He would be the more valuable hostage to Walder. Because Robb can't get through, but Hoster's on the other side.
So he would have just taken Blackfish then.
I thought it was a good question.
No. Like, you said Brendan would have been a good hostage. So, like, he walks in there by himself, and Walter's just like, "This is great."
Well, I'm just saying.
Throw him in the dungeons, boys.
Well, no, because in comparison to Kat, like, yes, Kat is valuable, but I think Brendan would have been just as valuable, or if not more. I feel like they could have ransomed Brendan for a lot of money. He was one of Robb's top military strategists. He's family.
Who's gonna ransom Brendan?
Walder.
Is he gonna ransom him to who?
To Robb.
So Brendan goes in there to negotiate, and then Frey is like, "I got your uncle. Pay me 1,000,000 dragons, and I'll let you pass."
Brendan goes in there to negotiate. Brendan is an asshole. Walder says, "Fuck you," and keeps him.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening.
Okay.
So that would be a horrible idea.
Yes, it would be. So I was just asking what would happen if he would have gone instead.
Yeah, no, he would have been in prison. Just from my interpretation of Brendan's personality, he is not a negotiator type. Yeah, I don't see him getting anything constructive done. He's probably just going to insult Walder Frey.
It still would have been cool to see, though.
I guess.
Okay. And so my other what if, Kat is in there negotiating with Walder, and she's asking if they could go somewhere to talk, and Walder says, "We're talking now," and he tells everybody to leave. "Lady Stark wants to speak with me in private. Might be she has designs on my fidelity." I can't do that noise, whatever the fuck he does. Yeah, that. So, this being completely
funny line.
out of character for Kat.
Yep.
What if she would have done that? What if she would have pulled a Cersei and tried to seduce Walder instead of, the marriage pact and everything else?
I think he would have made her go through with it.
That's so gross.
He'd have been like, "Jared, go get my special candy." And Jared would come down with his Greenseer Viagra. And...
Oh my god, imagine if he knocked up Kat, and then there was a Frey, Tully, Stark child.
Oh, so now Kat's a Stark.
Shut up. I just thought it was a funny one.
Kat would never let that happen.
No, she never would. She is a very...
As she's dying, she's like, "Oh fuck, Ned likes my hair and they're pulling my hair out."
I know, it's so sad. That made me sad.
You didn't cheer like some people did? I'm asking, because I genuinely don't know. Because some people are like, "Yeah, that sucks for Robb. I was so happy I cheered when Kat got her throat slit open."
No,
And
that
I'm
is
just like,
such
what
a
the
sad
fuck?
scene. It is so messed
Yeah.
up. She's clawing the skin from her face and thinking about Ned and don't cut my. No, that was sad. That was really sad. I'm not that fucked up of a person.
Okay, yeah, so you are. You definitely cheered. Woo! Oh, poor Rob.
I did
Oh, they killed
not.
his dog. Oh, cool. Cat's still alive. Oh, she's dead. Yes.
I hate you.
That's how some people read it. I imagine.
Okay, well, that's not how I read it.
Good to know.
Do you have anything else or no?
No. I just had my theory that shot me up to my second point. So it's 3-0. I win the game segment.
What the fuck do you win? You want a fucking cookie?
No, I'll think about it and I'll get back to you.
Okay. All right. So, do you have any idea what we're doing next?
I do have an idea. And cliffhanger, you guys are just gonna have to keep a lookout and see what we post next. You had the schedule, dude. You wrote the schedule.
I know. I have it. I'm asking if you know.
Oh, you're quizzing me. No, I don't. Okay, so it's 3-1.
All right. So, our next podcast is going to be on Arya 5, and in that one, we get to kill Ned.
Yeah, we
And
get to
say
kill
goodbye
Ned.
to Ned. So,
Yeah, remember when Sansa just stood there and watched and helped kill Ned? We get to see it from Arya's eyes.
how Sansa
Actually,
did nothing.
Arya doesn't even see it.
Dude, I don't remember. I haven't read the chapter.
I read it a couple weeks ago. Because that was when we were talking about the pigeon things. Ned turning into a pigeon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Arya, like, the only food she could get was pigeons.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. I'm going to post about that now on the Citadel since we have free post week. I'm going to post about Ned turning into a pigeon and turning into ice.
Okay. Thanks for listening. First of all, comment on our post here and let us know what you guys thought of Walder Frey and his first impression right here. Let us know where you rank the twins as far as like most #badass castles of Westeros. And what do you guys think Brendan would have done if he was in there with Walder Frey instead of Catelyn? But yeah, as always, check out our other episodes and like I said, leave your comments down below. That's all I got.
Thanks,
See you guys.
guys.